just a hack. He's just an absolute hack. And he gets his ass kicked by his teammates every week. It's just, it's terrible. It's just terrible.
Coming into the season, there was unjustified hype for Anthony Richardson. He hadn't played enough to be slotting him as one of the top quarterbacks in the class to even really do a full evaluation on him. There's a reason why we chose to hold off on evaluating him. But he comes out in a game where I think, I had this expectation that he was going to come out and have a strong performance and then maybe get the ball rolling because he's that good of an athlete. But he comes out against Utah, which is a very good defensive team, very well-coached team, and he looks phenomenal. He runs really, really well. He has a lot of really nice rushing plays. He evades pressure, and his arm looked fantastic. And as I was saying before, I'm here to overreact today in this week 1 show. I am very bought in on what I saw from Anthony Richardson, and if he does more of that, that is a top quarterback in this class. I am taking him over Will Levis. He is that good, and he showed us glimpses of what he could be this season.
Joe, let me ask you a question before I give my commentary on him. Because I was also very impressed.
Yes. If
he is close to his ceiling, can he unseat one of the top 2 quarterbacks in this class?
We're going to talk
not saying graded by you. I'm saying, do you think there's a possibility that he could be drafted before either of the top 2 assumed quarterbacks right now?
Well, we're going to talk about Stroud in a second, but if we look at both of those guys and line them up, if Stroud plays the way that he did on Saturday against Notre Dame multiple times throughout the season, far too many times than he should, then yes, I would take Anthony Richardson over Stroud.
Love it, man.
If that's the if we're getting the product of Stroud that we got on Saturday, only that. If Stroud goes back to normal like we saw last year, it's a different discussion. But 100%, I think that Richardson showed us a lot more against Utah than Stroud did against Notre Dame.
Joe, I love the week 1 hot takes, man. You're saying it with your chest, brother, and I appreciate that. Well, so this is my thing, right? People just made this mistake last year with Emory Jones, right? They're like, oh, this toolsy quarterback for Florida, like the system that he's in, blah, 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 has some talents. He's going to be a big riser. And people try to evaluate him and put a number on him last year in the preseason. You're just like, guys, he hasn't played enough, right? And Richardson's in the same boat. Like, he did some stuff last year where you're like, yeesh, man, kid is 6'4", 230-something pounds, strong arm, athletic. Like, there's no doubt he had tools, right? Like, I mean, you could tell me preseason, like, that kid has first-round tools, but I'm not going to grade him as a first-rounder because he just didn't play enough. I'll say this, Joe. I didn't need to see the off-script stuff that he did. Like, I posted one on Twitter yesterday. I'm just like, that's just silly stuff, man. Like, his ability to break tackles, extend plays, arm strength is fantastic. Like, all those things are great, man. There's no doubt about it. But my favorite thing that I saw about Anthony Richardson, in my opinion, is he was poised yesterday, man.
Yes.
Like, he seemed not to get rattled against pressure. He seemed to remain calm. And if those things are true, then we're cooking with grease. Because not only is he a great athlete, a great talent, but add in the fact that he's also a very poised and confident young man, kid could be one of the top quarterbacks in this class if he continues the trend that we saw on Saturday.
Yeah, the poise is an interesting thing to acknowledge because oftentimes with these younger guys, and especially when you throw them in to face a good defense, and also week 1, it's not like he had a warm-up game like Bryce Young just did against Utah State. For him to look as confident as he did is very, very important for his projection. Again, if he does that multiple times throughout this season, it also is not a stretch to say that he could win the Heisman, depending on how Florida finishes. That shouldn't be a hot take. But if we continue to get this level of composure, this level of consistency, the playmaking ability, that's what's going to make him a top 5 player and top 3 quarterback in the class, that kind of thing.
Well, I'm looking at his sorry, Joe, finish your thought. My bad.
No. All I was going to say is that the playmaking ability is what makes him that good. Is that it's not just like he's out there and he's completing easy throws and he's doing a lot of dump offs and he's consistent. It's that off the script stuff that you acknowledged and that you brought up, but the playmaking ability, if you can throw a guy in that is going to make plays like that, it is rare to see some of the things that he did on Saturday.
So next 6 games, Joe, I imagine Anthony Richardson is going to put up some crazy numbers. He goes against Kentucky, South Florida, Tennessee, Eastern Washington, poor Eastern Washington, Missouri, and LSU. There's a lot of defensive talent littered throughout that 6 games, but there's not a lot of great defenses littered through that schedule, right? So next 6 games, I think it's going to be pretty clear sailing for Anthony Richardson. Then he has a back-to-back huge test, and this is going to kind of define his true draft projection to me. He plays Georgia on October 29th, that Saturday after LSU, and then he comes back the next week and plays against Texas A&M, who has a gluttony of very talented NFL level defenders as well. So that 2-game stretch between Georgia and Texas A&M, we will know during that stretch if Anthony Richardson is a true threat to being one of the top 2 to 3 quarterbacks off the board, because those games will be a huge indicator because he's playing against NFL talent all over the field. I mean, you talk about Georgia with Jalen Carter and Keely Ringo and Mekhi Starks, the freshman corner that came out of nowhere and was probably the best corner on their team last week, which is just silly. Nolan Smith. And then you go to the next game and he's going playing against guys like Jalen Jones and Miles Jones and all the talented Antonio Johnson, the talented secondary that Texas A&M has, and then all the young defensive linemen they have too. He has a couple big tests, but if he aces those 2, man, then he could be a real threat to being, I don't want to say he could be the number 1 quarterback in this class, but there's been crazier things. Zach Wilson just went before Trey Lance and Justin Fields a couple years ago,
we both have Bryce Young as our first guy. And I think if Richardson's going to move up and be drafted really highly, it's going to be as the second guy behind Bryce Young. And again, it's going to kind of take more of a drop off from Stroud.